Kebs, tell us a little bit about what are you seeing in terms of the industry? What sort of sectors are performing well? What sort of assets are you looking at? What are the trends that you're seeing in the market? Any tips for someone looking to invest in SA?
In SA specifically, geez. I think from a macroeconomic perspective, I think there's quite a couple of challenges. I think interestingly enough, if we look at the interest rate hike that happened, the 75 bips, it almost sends a message, but I think, we sort of on par with what's happening in the world. I think there's a lot of effects from, COVID and the lockdown period that we had. And when I think about it, I mean, we're sitting at, 9% for prime right now, but it's not an anomaly because before pre-COVID, we were sort of at those levels. So it almost points to a recovery that's happening in the economy, which is, it's not a shock to the system. I think it's a good thing because we're almost going back to pre-COVID levels, right? Which is, I think for me, it's a positive sign because, we're sort of coming out of that, call it COVID period where, I think the world was in shock. We sort of going back to, no business as normal, if I can call it that. But it makes it interesting, I think, for the private equity industry because, there are assets that are interesting to look at and sort of, I always say like the proof is in the pudding. So as a fund, if, we look at defensive assets, I think it's good for us because then from an assessment perspective, we can look at, how certain businesses performed during COVID. And that sort of gives you a very good idea of, whether a business is defensive or not, right? But I think going forward, we almost want to be, very cautious in terms of the kind of businesses we look at. I don't think we all know that investments is not, we can't look into a glass ball, but we can at least, try as much as possible to ensure that we invest in good defensive businesses that almost, can withstand any shocks. I think in terms of, industries, I think technology is going to play a big part going forward. I think we saw that during COVID. And, we almost want to look at innovative businesses where businesses that sort of almost set themselves apart from the norm. You don't want to invest in, traditional kind of businesses that won't be relevant 10 years from now. So which makes it, very interesting for the private equity space because you almost want to think about the future and not just the present. So we don't want to look at a business that was well performing, in the past 5 years, but we almost want to understand how that business looks going forward.